Samba.
Lawless.
Godoy.
Rinpoche.
Godoy. Godoy say.
Lawless.
Godoy.
I'm sure Yabagogo.
Should on the problem Madoa.
Problem Chunimindu.
It's Jade my check. Yeah.
Cora get doing a mato.
Say, that problem chase the daily. No, there's a tell the no problems in the sea chicken. Oh, yeah. That is the music, Nandini Dangtela. 60 chiran to go na mina hakumason. Pama de la dangtela. Dena dewa choson. Pindi namka kamar show. Dugna dungar dag kur. Kola dungar jijamso kembar shows. Lama de the young nangdoa. The 60 kind of yawojido.
Yabu six dumpo digare.
Dena China Senate. China ngarang chipo sona. China di dewate simchi chamal ngwashikins. Take any pindi namkakang shows. Koranso dechi namkakang shows. Duna tabote joda tabote.
So I don't know if you could understand the words of this melody, the music we were just playing. Lama is saying some words to the effect of, if I'm happy, may that happiness and benefit to the sky. In other words, I dedicate that to all living beings. Any duna?
Duna dungar dena China deva chosong pindi namka kamwarisho. Duna dungar dagi kur kora dungaji jamso kembarisho.
And then the next lines are, if there is suffering, I take that on myself. And may all beings be free of suffering. May the ocean of samsara dry up. May all the suffering in samsara dry up. So if there is suffering, I take all that on myself. I bear the burden for that, and may all the suffering of samsara dry up.
Yeah.
Tonglin.
Only Monamdia. Lasso. Any Samala, any Tashi delay, any that ring, Matoyan Chetila, any Chitu Nabaka Capsoni, the Junganani. And in what Yam don't say at the Bemasi Gawashons to Jinans Tama.
Happy for coming to this Zoom session of our 5th session of teaching Oh,
Shamba, David Molk, you have a big problem. Okay, you have a very, very big problem today. Yeah, I think your internet is, I don't know.
Yeah, David, we might have to have you turn your video off if it continues.
Oh, that's strange. Okay.
Yeah.
I should have good internet here.
Well, we'll see how it goes, but if it continues, if you're stopping, starting type of thing, then sometimes it helps to turn the video off, and we'll just have your voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, turn my video off. Will I still be able to see Rinpoche then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That would be helpful then.
Yeah.
Well, let me know if I should do that.
Okay. Give it another minute here and see how it goes.
Okay.
Oh, the Tani, that ring at you. 다 추트인데 망고 송네. 아니 뜻이네 마. 너기 아니 가장 같이 추트인데 추트인가 봐들라. 뜻이 랩도 유리시.
Oh yeah, I think you better turn your video off.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. We just see your name. That's good.
Yeah, we'll see if that helps.
아니 삼발라 다당에 다당 같이 추트인가 봐들 투들. 저는 추트인가 봐대.
So we'll begin our 5th session of these teachings.
순상제 담제 정오보 예리 동제 고르 점수 잡다 가등 송밤이 배반군 진라마 담배 샵제 들어 드마미 발라 고외랍데데데 그 배산 자신 접순 지오 주선제라 바란제데 남다 저틈 삼에서 예라 등진 밤이랑 그 벤지 시랍예데 나의 주공살 탐초도 공드 베게레 안조 닌도 진베 바이올리 망드 로드 진베 주근드니세 르바 진베 좀들지 않데 로자 진베 샤블라 소르와인든 님트 진베 거다제네제 아갑제 진베 라마니 바른제 준드 진베 드베잔진제 르바 진베 샤블라 소르와인데 드바 진베 른조용서세 사자 진베 도방원데 틀레 진봉 가다 냠브라다 닌검 진베 샤블라 소르와인데 십선 갈란지랍 진고르제 안제베 동들셀나보 자르베딘 바군네 산제바 가주름 버서랑 그사인사 여와군제 지지시가 지드드 바가레 다가라와 밤중지 비와 소르베가 감슴도발라마는 그사인사 바딘자발라마는 보지 다게지워라 베메디 요나이 가등진베고네 지송데 그송 통정을 자다서 용대산제 공다냠나양 가대산제 공외 라벤공 자발라메 샤라소한데 다순도발라 주선종 간다 sobje동겐지디나 데젤로마라절바 강서다 덴데르덴베 주젠점베 심브른데 바담 젠데셰셰 나모리아 담발라 예게달로 단입진게 좀다담에게 남다 인도 공제다게 제삼바 담지 그다게 주데 암도 마전로한 남건 타다냐베 심진 담지 시제동한 타달레 다데 남도 띠제데와 라나메 바양다 바조바 산지제 공파rum보치 되니 제내장 토버사 대치的담배 취소mon드니 최진의 신의 냠설람바 요 냠바고네 신차
O benevolent root of the past, present, and future, devote, prostrate to you and go for refuge to you with my body, speech, and mind. Please grant your blessings to be cared for by you inseparably in this lifetime and all of my future lives. Clean ground of pure ethical discipline, beautified by mountains of unfathomable samadhi, illuminating all things with wisdom light of the sun and moon, Supreme Buddha who accomplishes the welfare of all, please bestow virtue and goodness. Your mandala things, beautiful light striking the lands, knees, devotion, I prostrate to the great jewel of the Kagyu, Gampopa. O glorious and precious root guru, takes of lotus at my heart, caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind, equal to all Buddhas in qualities of realization, yet surpassing all as in kindness to me. I pray at the feet of my root guru, O protector, minds of myself and all beings towards the Dharma. All you who have become disciples of the Sugatas, those gone to bliss, throughout the billions of worlds of the 10 directions, all of you who wish to hear the Dharma raining down here and now, May you come here. Namo, in languages of devas, nagas, and yakshas, languages of kumbhandas and human beings, in the sounds of whatever beings exist, in every language, I shall teach the Dharma. Please listen well with the motivation of bodhicitta, thinking all mother sentient beings equal to the extent of space must by all means attain unexcelled eternal bliss of perfect, complete Buddhahood. To accomplish this, I shall listen carefully without distraction to the Mahayana teachings being given here and put them into practice.
That's all. Tatila kanji simbrasa vechune, terenga chukapsa papa, any tarji, but that may Gampopa can say yajuk, any lamchori chintua, any the moment to the Shuains.
The subject we are supreme.
Oh, you have a very
Jampa,
great problem.
yeah, we're still having trouble even with the audio. Do you mind?
That's all. Any 중의지텔라 아니 람초리 진충와 아니 같이 다때 개침보시네 참아되는 좀 요리 때 참에 하고 요리 나티 중의지도 야보지 연구와 있나 담보 흔로그 취대 아니 백개침보지리스.
So you were all aware that this is an important teaching. That's why you're attending to it. But for the main practice to go well, the preliminary preparation is extremely important.
근데 전에 흔로그 취대라 아니 담보가 취치 님종그 삼배 지심베 토니 님종세야데 백개침보리도와 인주라 삼바든 힌지 찌고와이나 랑그줄라 님종지 고리 송요리 근데 전에 담보 님종지.
So first of all, pay attention to having renunciation in your own mind, a sincere wish for liberation from samsara. Because without that, it's really difficult or impossible to develop love and compassion for others.
근데 전에 란팅랑 님종그 삼바 코와 째다시 브라가 동할라소바 드셔고를 삼로 추서지 땅 딩 코와 째다시 브라가 동할라 나들이 심치때 남라 아니 지니 아니 랑토르시바 심치 탐지 대완데 바다 동할면데 바치파리 대인바 송장 담보 랑기 담배 취대 야보지 냠내세 차리 지니 아니 담배 취대 배주세네 아니 심치 탐지 그 치도 지게 인삼바 아니 상초세 그 지심베 어떤데 지삼로 당와이나 아니 무지 취대 체대된 바지 착이요레지.
So that means to contemplate for a moment the problems, the drawbacks, the sufferings involved in samsara, both in the general sufferings and specific sufferings. And then once you have a sense of that and the wish to be free of it yourself, then develop the love and compassion for others, wishing that they could be free of these sufferings and be conjoined with happiness. And think, that they have that exact same aspiration as you do. And then think, well, then I must practice this Dharma so that I can attain a state of enlightenment. And then I will really be able to benefit all of these living beings, all these sentient beings. So if you think along those lines, that would be a good preparation, good way of setting your motivation.
이거 가지고 동아 대한테라. Okay. What is this? 어야, 어딘데 인도 짜니? 다 딘데 시, 다 딘데 인도 짜니? 아니 딘데 지금 삼로 땅네, 니 참에 신쇼시 들은 가서 봐봐 가지고 안당 주바데. 이나네 요래 주바 나드네.
Naparawa.
Oh, but Ngabadi, Konda, Samba. The Chiang Ngola Dorji, Yumayong, Korenga, non treasures on Juba Maringa body.
Rinpoche says, I need to throw a vajra at him today. He started to talk about the 10th set. And I said,
Yes.
no, I think it's only the 5th one.
I make the mistake. He going to throw the Dorji to me today. Okay. Ngabadi,
Lare.
Any that thing about La.
Me power Jawa Church.
Lao, Mabanga of a chuchu, that thing a man rocky, didn't make the man rocky. Nabas, Mabanga of a chuchune, now Simjerang in Mabang, Namdo Chuniji Roba in Mabang, Numoba Ishija Sunday in Mabang, the Yam Toji Chulu in Mabang, Nata Dungerji gave a Shini in Mabang, Drabik Chuniji Kurma in Mabang, Shulashona, Mudu in Mabang, Tamlang Kaya Shrub the Lamde in Mabang, Triptych of Religious Mabang, Nibachu and Yindoja Samba Mabang. Then Mabang was a chuchu yenos.
So this set of 10, number 5, are the 10 things not to be abandoned. Since compassion is the root of benefit for others, do not abandon. Since appearances are the radiance of the mind, do not abandon them. Since thoughts are the play of dharmata, do not abandon them. Since kleshas are the revelation of wisdom, do not abandon them. Since desirable things are the water and manure of experience and realization, do not abandon them. Since sickness and suffering are teachers, do not abandon them. Since enemies and obstructors are the exhortation of dharmata, do not abandon them. If they disappear spontaneously, that is siddhi. Do not reject that. Since the path of method is always a support for the path of knowledge, do not abandon it. Do not abandon physical dharma practices that you can accomplish. Do not abandon the intention to benefit others, even though you have little ability. Those are the 10 things not to be abandoned.
Tangazo de la non-turching though, that the dorji thing all you are him though, the Yeresoni de la dorji to Yukodoni. Non-tur carry Zindo Sena. Mabawas of a chuchu de la, subject Koranganana, Mabawas of a chuchu theory. That making the Churanga lockdown say the inchit on a mala waina, Mabawas of a chuchu chickatola, Ranga chuking dogodo. In the Imba Song Zang, any a Kazanja, that is him joke saying, a takia saying, Vega Mape. Any Traja Mambojin and a song, takia saying, any Ninja Hindunji Zawa in Be Mabang Seate. Mambo chicken and a temendo. Mape Munekanana, Niji Hindu Zawa in Besivat Mendo Tambote. The Nindi Zane, Niji Hindu Zawa in but the Paja May Sari. They Mewaina, any Juba Jotakta Sankado. They Yawaina, Mabang was a chuchu king and dogodoa. Subject Koranana, Mabang was a chuchu, Mr. Yomari. Niji Hindu Zawa in Betty Yawaina, any chuchi dogodoa. That is not true. Ninji Hindu Zawa in Bay, Mabang Seate, Mendos.
Lotus. Okay, there seems to be a mistake in our English version in that we have 11 things not to be abandoned. And so I've investigated this, and it seems that in the Tibetan, at least in most of the Tibetan versions of this that I've looked at, that first line, since compassion is the root of benefit for others, do not abandon it, while being true, it's not one of the 10 that are included here. So we can delete that in order to have the perfect translation of the text, to have the set of 10 rather than having an extra one of 11.
Ti dorji de nga chu solo yugo na ha ko ma song da. Nga la ma yu mi se chu.
That indicate the total check dua. indicate Gampopa the topa check wa.
Do
Gampo
te
de.
lama rija te.
Lare lagma check lolos.
Te kondo la imbe.
La shuba yin.
Ya.
La yin.
Ta te la nawa simji rangu imbe mapang se ate la. Pe ke chimbo ji. Ta te yusan ne ke chishun ra chi ta tanga chi. Dikinani te chagan osi nawa simji rangu imbe mapang se ate.
Which leaves us then with the first one being, since appearances are the radiance of the mind, do not abandon them. So this, I feel here, is the most important point that we're dealing with in this set of 10.
Kita ngarang chu nambu chi tadrup nani yurta yurchin se anda simta nawa se anda disu korte la dan dishi jaktang mambu manda watinde mambu yode watinde chiri.
Now there are many ways, many lines of commentary that are discussed in the teachings of Buddha relating to subject and object. Yod and Yuchen, any gare?
Nawa the same. Yurta yuki.
And in the dichotomy between the mind and appearances. So there are many types of explanations involving these subject, object, mind, and appearances, which are dualistic in their explanation.
Ta religion the tumta yen do de wa sebra wa simta wa uma ba ke ndakin den do ke sia de she mambo ji ja ma ko chi du nang ba jiong ko to ni no wa se ya de si yur di ko de any rang ke sim le lo so che ba chi me wa chi o de ni kham sum po de ne simta mo sin simta ba ka de she ke yu de cha ni the sim ko ba kya ka wang ko pa nang song wa chi Nele mato ni tumta yimbe shewa na yin jikti kuba bokun de batang ani je slai ziba la so bat ne ki koni ke je she ke maris.
Now, in the successive levels of the philosophy of Buddhism, which are named the Vaibhashika, Sotantrika, Chittamatra, and Madhyamaka. There are many different explanations of these points of subject, object, mind, and appearances. But without going into the details of all those different explanations, in general, there is this presentation in the teachings of Buddha that appearances are the nature of mind, as is expressed in that Chittamatran system very explicitly, that the mind only, as it's called, system of philosophy. This is the general idea that the appearances that arise for us are not separate from the mind. They're actually of the nature of the mind. And so this is a much different explanation from theistic philosophies that explain all the world to be created by a creator God, and so on.
Tatila nawa simji rangu ibe me pangsia tila nga ke khatang Jampa Tharchin churang la ani yige chi tang yu wa nge dishi sina khasi wo chi zu ya ji za patro mo che ke ani chadang ko long chik tang to chin te lo ba ka long tang ya se chi bo shwa la ka long tang ani nge dishi chi ti ya ji ta te nge ma pu ge thon tham ma la ge na za patro mo chi shan ne gom chi la le na si yimi de me ja ne na wa rang ti jing roma ya da te ne yang ta bu ta wa mai ni nang ge ta wa yi na wa phal man di ngu po chula ma ko na si yimi de sho ji song so yang tu chi te lo pa shan ne ben na we men chin xin bian chin xin ba chu jing na ro ba ji song so yang ja se chin bo xia le shan ne the tan tong to shibata, then a gapar sami, then the donger, jurchip, dimbertopa, dosai, she is also. I think in the ship, Neman the shit digitilla. They twin Kang Wang Bo go Yurdu Japan, then a me partang gun the Yapo Mari Sene, Yun then a Mesa Hilla Tun Rosashi, Minijing. Kang Chiang go one she Yurden now one, that num, you naturally got a Simji. Simji Chadang so, the knee part the dog Gushi Sheju. Nang Samlo Chadang Teni Jie. Teni srod ngupi chunam tsumi yibzi loin zintang nolo wangi simla donghar so yongo yoba mato se ngupi sr sela nutap dine medo. Tate nge de la kasar de tangne eni ngarangi namji chitaki yo de nge tiyajuri de chik malada.
Okay, so Rinpoche says, I've prepared some quotations that relate to this point, that since appearances are the radiance of the mind, do not abandon them. I have a quotation from Zapatu Rinpoche, from Masida Talopa, and Bodhisattva Shantideva. So those are, Zapatu Rinpoche said, there are some meditators who do not leave appearances and mind inseparable, but rather pursue and go after appearances to drive them out. That is not the right view. It is a dualistic view. Don't pursue appearances, don't spell appearances or summon anything towards you. Leave mind and appearances inseparable. And Ma Siddhatalopa said, son, appearances don't trap you, grasping at them does. Stop grasping, Naropa. And the great Bodhisattva Shantideva said, thus seeing, hearing, knowing, these are not to be stopped. That to be stopped is the cause of suffering, which is grasping at the reality of these. And Rinpoche himself has composed a little explanation to further elucidate this. The meaning of this is that it is not good to feel compelled to get rid of the objects of the five senses, and you won't find a place where these do not exist or where you can escape from them. What is being said is an awareness which contradicts the seeming reality of these objects must put an end to our being harmed by them. The problem is caused by our mind and our mistaken, inappropriate modes of attention to these objects, of attachment and aversion. The objects themselves do not harm us.
Lasso. Tatila, Unduricha, Tapena, Nawa Simjiraho, Ibe Mabangsiate, Nawase, Yelijan de Zane, Bena, Angarang to Mambo Chickasitane, oh, retreat and Rogolisian, and some talent in the Yogodo, or retreat Sunani, Senape, Ship de Yongari, and it on Chile Deva Ina, and Sena Ship de Yongomaris. That didn't make up Kijari, make up chick. When it Churang Simdela Yamni Chen Tobo, Chilipsoina, Horang retreat the dele tang, on Cherkopala delete, Chebra Yumari. Kaisina. Had you take a churanga similar new to Yumari? Dina Nitopan Tumboke is a Yamnin Tumbok or drink comes to take a shake of the war.
Lotus. So often people will think, oh, if I go into retreat, then everything will be very nice, peaceful, calm and peaceful. Whereas if I stay in town, I'm going to have turbulence and be disturbed. And this is a temporary situation because when someone has more experience in the path and reaches higher levels of realization, then it really doesn't make any difference whether one is staying in a quiet retreat or in a bustling city.
Let Tambo Caps, that is Rinpoche the Shiva, let Tambo Caps, you'll true. Le tambo ba ka kap so ina yurde la pang yurde la thap yurde ta kar se de chi si yurde la tune to zon si ne o de si ya de ya ani be jin de oba ya garo lep thali kap so jitu Milarepa tambo de nang do tambo ringo la phet ani gom jap ani gom ta to ba o sangun de juen de to ba ya bu cha thali kap so ani zhong chi ge ji la ma yong ne ta to ba de nam par chi 빅셀다 본동세야데 유진 코랑을 띠네 용거 요라 요데 유진이 체네 빼네 시당 르바지 공고와 이나 저랑 담보 시당 제사 그 요쯤에나 저랑 르바 검타 요 말아와 빼네 짐바지 땅고와 이나양 냠타 그 요쯤에나 저랑 짐바 땅사 요 말아와 근데 이제 자네 참상라 요때 그 유진을 도세 되와다지 Pena ngarang so men bandoli kapso men barne kapso numte slowa ina met huk chir rokodowa pe tina yin so dole shaki yori isak yori ta
So at first, objects will be, for a beginner, objects are often dealt with in a way that they must be abandoned, or it seems like there's a conflict or effort to get rid of objects of desire and so on. And this is exemplified, for instance, in the life of Milarepa, where he first went up into the mountains, into isolated retreat, in order to enter into this combat-like situation. But then eventually, as higher realizations are reached, then in order to generate the subjective minds that are of high realization, the objects again become useful. They become helpful, and Milarepa would go into cities, into villages, and so when at high levels of realization, then fuel for the realization helps. For instance, if you want to practice patience, you don't have anybody that's aggravating you or annoying you, you won't be able to practice patience. Or if you don't have anyone who is in need, who's desperate for help, then you won't have someone to practice generosity towards. And so at those higher level of realizations, those objects become like fuel, like a little bit of butter or oil that you could pour on a fire, and then the fire blazes up even brighter.
Good job, Samba. Today, Churati go silbot and talk you marake the code machine. Any Namdo Chuni Roba in Mapangsi, that is call this young Nathan Tombo, Ya Leptali Kichari, and now I seem to run in Mapang, Namdo same year. Namdo Chuni Roba in Mapang, Nimon Yishi Sunday in Mapang said to support the young lamb chet to say. This in Yamto Yan Tombo, Topan Tombo lips on the Ticola, song the Atelier.
And so this statement, as well as the two that follows, since thoughts are the play of Dharmata, do not abandon them. And since kleshas are the revelation of wisdom, do not abandon them. These are all, and kleshas, by the way, delusions or the afflictions of the mind, the Sanskrit word for it. These are indicative of rather higher levels of realization being reached. These are applicable to high levels of realization.
Just like the Susan. I hope she not made me. Oh yeah. Namto Chuni the Ropa Mapangsi. Atela, what you don't Chantoman and the Taparashi doing the Giwa. Namto, over Chukur Sumba, Jiang Mai, Jiang Chavala, Mangaro Paranchava Gomchila, kon de yemi to bar sin je lobsi ta tapo Kagyu ko lokso la namdo chu ko yin ba ta namdo sem ko tsar yin ba ta namdo chu ko yin si sung ko yore.
So with regard to this, in our lineage prayer, our Vajradhara lineage prayer, we have those words that, the nature of thoughts is Dharmakaya, appearing, not being anything, but appearing as anything. May great meditators realize the inseparability of samsara and nirvana. So this idea is very prevalent in the Kagyu, that the very nature of thoughts is the Buddha mind.
Te yu te sumba de nyumong yishi je sande yin be mapang si. Kitang nyumong ba se ya de ngarang zu mada pa ngola nyumong ba ji nang de ke yore ma to tak pa ngola nyumong ba de yishi ngai ran yin. Nyumong tonga te yishi ngai ran yin. Korang o de yishi ngai ran yin. Yumtsin ka yin se na ngarang zu sem de ye du ma ne san yin se she ke yorwa. Sem korang ye demane sanji yesu shedi sem te ko roba sem ko tsar sem ko namto gang chowa de yang di ge sanji ge tsar sanji ko roba inde tane ini yising ala chak yuri yising a yisi se ge yuri nyumo ba yishi je sande yimbe ma bangsi.
So since pleasures are the revelation of wisdom, do not abandon them. So these delusions of ignorance, attachment, aversion, jealousy, pride, they are afflictions from the point of view of an impure mind. But once the mind is purified, they appear as the 5 transcendent wisdoms. Now we say that sentient beings are primordially enlightened, primordially Buddhas. This is why that when the very nature of these afflictions are realized, that they are not afflictions, but they are transcendent wisdoms. And this is because that thoughts are the manifestation, the play, the creative energy of the Buddha mind. Lotus.
Doyo nyamto ju chulu imbe ma bangsi ta yiba dege elin depe yungdi nga si tata ngaran chun depe yungdi nga tata ngaran chun le tambo pala nde chasang de gazari ta hako songa di yete tambo nipa sumpa yete le tambo pa ngaran chun la de gazari de hako ko tambo nyumong la tap wardo nyumong chola char tama nyumong zene bangsi yoga yuri tambo nyumong la tap wardo nyumong chobo la cha eni tama de nyumong zene bang ne tindi indi zane tambo ngarang chun di yete nyumong la tabli turi ma to nyumong la chobo dili turi ma ri nyumong la chobo ma chawa ina chobo de pe na ta nga chu chobo de sidu tata nga chu chobo de wa na yi ma ri di nyumong tong go hor tang de chobo de gi ri churan tele sho nga chobo ri si go hor tang ani nyumong tong go hor tang don ani kale nyumong to che ne pang na tende wa chobo de tang tindi indi zane di yete ngarang chu ngula yi ba ina tambo nyumong lan thap turi ma to ene nyumong lam de che ya dang di na ni da ji yin ba so ba na yin yong gun do ga men do ene so su nyam ni le ta ya ri si de sung hin de ji Gampopa khorang pa ta ban thong bo la phe chali chi di zane khorang ge nyam nyong su ko ma so ya ji ri do wa.
So all of the things talked about in these first 4 at the beginning level are to be abandoned. They need to be abandoned, and in general, that's the process in the practice of Buddha's teachings, is that ignorance, aversion, attachment are abandoned. But so these are so what happens is that initially the delusions, distracting appearances, and so on, need to be abandoned. But once one reaches a little bit higher level of the path, then they become useful, they become helpful. And then finally, when one reaches the culmination of the path, then the delusions are completely eliminated, severed from the root. Those.
Yeah, they show a just some in the just way. First fight for the delusion. Second, delusion should become your friend. Finally, that carries a delusion to connect any power. This time the Rodan Hako. Law, so. Any Nata Dungerta Nabati, the Nata Dungerta gave Hini Bema Bansi. That is the Nata Lam the Chia, Dunga Lam the Chia, Nimo Lam the Chia, Nawa Lam the Chia, Namdo Lam the Chia, Doyo Lam the Chia. That is the Koranti Lam the Chirk or Lam the Chirchitani, Mapang was saying, same Korank nipper top deke, Onika Tawa top party, top deke. Any Korang a lam the church in a Korang, take a new Gamari, she get all a chant of you, said it, not a donhaji gave Shini in Bemapang.
And this next statement, since sickness and suffering are teachers, do not abandon them. So they become teachers. All of this again, as one reaches higher levels of realization, then things which were harmful before, which needed to be abandoned, become helpful. You take them onto the path. Sickness, suffering can be taken onto the path. The attachment and aversion and the desirable objects all can be taken onto the path, utilized in the path once one has reached higher levels. And Gampopa, as the one who's giving these teachings, is at those higher levels that he's talking about.
Tatela Nata Dungal Lamchesiate, Patur Mochi, Nana Nate Navega, Musajele in Zebai. Manana Nate, Managayang, Tarank Gibjon Pawins. And this is on you. Now I am drinking those. Kiwang laying in Ba. Sa Yali, Nas, Tata Nasi, I think around you, Dukajilang and Jessica Donhari Sikura. A tambe chunyami sinking na dunga ki jet sosu yaji in the tane. A langy the tadok yura, social young the tane, any sing langy, Kiwang Humasa Yali langy the tadok is. Any mana nayang, any chipo those. Any mana waina, Julie mana in the tane, Tosa de Biansi in the tambichu, long chu chocolate, take any simchi mambola pinto younger. Nanayan Dikindo, Manayan Dikindo, the soyuri.
As Zapatra Rinpoche said, if I'm sick, I'm happy about that. It will purify negative karma. If I'm well, I'm happy about that. I'll be able to gather accumulations and purify negativity. So in our Buddhist system, we see our suffering and problems as arising from our own previous actions. And so when we undergo problems and suffering, then we see that as purifying our negative actions of the past, and where he expresses happiness at being well and being able to gather the accumulations and purify negativity, then he will be able to rejoice in benefiting many sentient beings.
Ta telayang drabgik de chuni jukul mare, sita dele jipsu Milarepa ki chiran namtha jiwaina ta sipo si chang tinana tambo jipsi Milarepa korang sangjele ki ju zo de jin zo da de kan ni song de chi de jipsi Milarepa korang ke simshok da nyingru dang korang ke thoni nyingru simshok thop chi bo de dang ani phajo ki jin de akata ane ni ki do wa korang akata ane ni ke ani korang mawasim la dopo tang ani dopo tang ne ani di jin de ke dala chana ani korang ke ti zunru dang simshok de beju dang ne ani thotan ne ani mambo ji se ne mambo ji se de tan ani telen juba chimbo ji chi ne yang dagi korang ke simshok nguma yu de le zunru yu de le yang nguma dikpa la beju dang wa na yi ani jini dambe chu la beju dang de ani chi chi lu chi la sang je song wa ani korang sang je song de song yu re sang je cha de ngalen ji tin di khan ne tin chi chu de akada aneni drathins akada aneni de ngala dala chane akada aneni de ngala dala ma chawa ina nga tarung khwalen chamde yorichi tate pe thugi chi pe kadin che song de song do wa
Next statement: since enemies and obstructors are the exhortation of Dharmata, do not abandon them. So we can see this in the life of Milarepa, which many are aware of, that the causes of Milarepa's enlightenment are on the one hand, his great energy and perseverance, strong determination. And on the other hand, he said there was his aunt and uncle. Now, if you know the story of Milarepa, and you know how his aunt and uncle screwed him and his mother out of their inheritance, and his mother exhorted him to get revenge on them, and with his great determination and perseverance, he used magical means to bring destruction down upon them. But then once he did that, he felt tremendous regret at his harmful actions. And then when he met with Dharma and went into Dharma, that same industriousness and determination and perseverance that he had applied in Dharma then led him to attaining enlightenment in his very lifetime. But he said, that the most kind influence he had in his life was from this aunt and uncle, the ones who had been, made into his enemy. Because, if he hadn't done these things, he wouldn't have had this same kind of regret. He wouldn't have had the same determination to pursue Dharma practice. And so he saw, this situation in which his aunt and uncle had become his enemies as having become the greatest beneficial condition or influence on his life. That without them, he said, I would still be wandering around in samsara.
good job shula shuna ngudu imbe ma bang dumba de ke shula shuna ngudu imbe ma bang si ta pe na chuba chi ngene ina shoshi se ya de pe ke chimbo imba tan dinani phaje de ding do shula shuna ri ma to chuba chi ngene me zon se ne o tangala te gondo si o ngala pe sha ten de chi gondo si ngala chi gondo si ne ani ngu se long cho se ke de la long cho se long chu long cho ke pe sha sa ya ta long cho ke yo no sa ya de chuba ka si ni ga ma re si podo wa ka song yu de podo wa ka song yu ri la ka dam be ge bi si ni ani Gampopa ka song do podo wa ka le song se ne shu lo song a yi na de churang ka dang de la shu lo song se na churang ka han be zu ma ze wa to ni churang ka ma ha ma wa na ma chi ngui de ma bo chi te yang ko yu na pe na nga la de chong ro wa nga chen de chi so de ma ha zan ma o li chi ma chi chi so de de ne se pe sha ma bo te ne de shong wa ro ta de na ngu drup ri so ge de churang ke sang ni ngu drup se ya de kan de go go ri chi de ni ngu drup se ya de churang ka dem ba se churang ka dang bo se ani churang ka lama kon cho se ne ani ya kon cho len chu pa ma ngi hong le jin ba Any tambe chula chunju. Tende se yali teke, churan lama tuk ji, churan yedang ka tuk ji ne, te nam ki ma churan la nangwa ka sore, pambap sore re isi. Te churan ka tangdo langgo re isi. Te mayin pa, any ngale chichi gondo, me gondo se ne, any tende se ne zan ne drip ne. O tende se wa ina long so re isu ko yuri. Chin song ai.
Lotus.
Ta mambo de cha su chu yang.
Okay, so we have disappear spontaneously. That is city. Do not reject that. I think we have to actually look at a different, possibly a different understanding of this line here. The way I would translate what Rinpoche was just saying was accept what comes spontaneously, but don't go begging for it. Okay, so, if we have a feeling of neediness, like I need this, I want this, I need this for my practice, we're kind of grasping like that. That's very inappropriate for a Dharma practitioner. And Geshe Potoa, great Kadam master, talked to Gampopa about this.
Marda. Kyu poto ba ke Gampopa la song yu mare. Poto wa ke song yu ri, Gampopa ka song do, ni cha ka song do wa. No.
So this is similar to something that Geshe Potoa said, and Gampopa is saying it here, that if things come spontaneously through your practice, that through your perseverance and devotion, and you're making offerings to Buddha and practicing generosity towards sentient beings, and you're just doing that, then whatever comes to you in terms of resources, support, for instance, with me, people make offerings to the center that I don't even know about, and so that is acceptable because that's like, it's a gift from the Guru. It's a gift from the Buddhas that is in response to your pure practice and your sincere motivation. And that's, those are acceptable kinds of resources to use, to receive and take. But otherwise is going out and grasping for things. Oh, I need this, I need that, I need that. That's quite inappropriate for a Dharma practitioner.
Tati pache dumba te nga su chupachi lama tawachi ke ngui la pache tende chi nga da ina tate nga rang la dangwa chishu da chi long cho ke se se ade lama ke ngui ne chupachi ke ngui ne ina o nga la pesha tende chi go do nga la chi chi go do ma la ngai chu she ke chu la nga la pesha de se an da manda se ne tate pe ma si chobo pe ma si chobo ri ngai te la logi chi she ko
Okay, so I think that this point is something that's very important, for me as a teacher and for Dharma teachers in general. There can be a great tendency to be thinking, oh, I need this money, I need this for this, etc. I'm teaching Dharma, so this should be offered to me. So I want to tell a story about that.
你都接了。 nga tambo ari le yong ni ka su jang gu yu jin no Madison Wisconsin la ka de pe ja wa yu jin no ani nga de ka su sui de de sang a me ga tin yu chin bo ji jang gu no bo chi ja de ani nga ka de ja ju le chong so ma chot den de mang bo ma pa che ong da ni chi zab ji zar ge sum ji ma zin zang ji de ji ho ri chin bo chi ge na na de je ri ka de jang gu no bo chi da 순준왕도 급자요라 급자가 빼셔야돼 싸안돼 빼셔 본치 시위직 사약하시지리야 다 사약하지는 또 당가듯이 좀 마성돼 사약하시지 아니 야와는 뭐지 순준왕 살리 값서 아니 마기 다 답렉 신이 그 고딕 신이 그 맞지요라 팀메테게 어 빼셔 던데 맞sol라 인컴 소요네 그 빼셔 던데 진도시 애네테 가르치기 인식이 야와는 뭐지게 다랑나 장고는 뭐지게 나 去写呢，阿里呢，绕了那个的上面用没得起。我那么这个去多年有呢，那么这个那么人生有年有呢，这个学习呢，我得了这个有起。我来个的去写个的嘛，都去的剧呢，我别下去啥呢？等这上你能好嘛东西，我个没吃了当家一些。来了这里那做人多些呢，拉嘛就不呢，嘛是拉嘛早起不去的。아니 코란 그때 야와 입지는 때 송수 제일 나서라는로 코란 그 담자라 나그 며칠라 담배 추종 그 민시 담배 추그 지네 론초 나게 사마사기 민시 다 론초 나세야 돼 나요리 다 뒤고를 해기는 듯이 잡나 시마가서 론초 세나 나를 때 고혼도 나를 때서나 삼로 공롱티 토니 담보 한리치스네 조와이 디나 이제 소마이나 아니 깨자 시당 라서 봐 근데 지 송아이나 아니 딕박세 론츠세 용거리 야와는 뭐지 들 송소 그때 망보 차서 아니 간딱장 깝때도 롤로 사약하시지도 참아대 그래서 고모 찍 롤로 찍 야와는 뭐지 나요 말 차상대 가시 파 아프리카 소라 든데시 로바지송 가시 아메리카 소게 야 쪼었던 데로 로바지시 차상대 다라는 곱샤 잡데 다라는 사마진 펩소 그때 나랑은 집에 세는 초와 침보 장군은 보치라 살레배 자침보요 나랑도 싫이 왜그 내당 배 강화 침보 쳐야 야 바일을 잡주와 진짜 내당 여보 말해 공부 이와이나 사와님들이면도 그배 자체산이 공부 이인도잖아 담배 추고 토를 땡선 가와서 와이나 빵랑 대사이나야 담배 추고 토니 근데 지 라리 또 근데 난거 도시 다들 주시는 지다 들라 쇼로서 는 어디 뭐 방셔야 되나
So, in 2008, I went to attend teachings given by His Holiness the Dalai Lama in Madison, Wisconsin, and there were about, I think, maybe 29,000 people there, huge number of people there, and the donations that came in were somewhere in millions. I don't know exactly, but a lot. And
또 급자대 뜨가 또로 되게 되는 시야
Gary,
또 메시 되는 거로 코란지 나는 데일리 값서 급자 그 뜨가지 요로 뜨가시나디 급자대 그 림바치 거로 머레레게 급자라 배샤 때근도 와단디 손이 녹소 되는데도
So it was in the price of admission, which is the custom here that this large amount of proceeds were taken in, and there was a High Lama that was explaining the situation to His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and His Holiness said, I'm not coming to sell the Dharma in America. I have no wish, and there's 5 different ways that sort of one that they're spoken about begging or implying that you would need things or want things, in your speech and so on. And without going into all of those, His Holiness Dalai Lama said, I'm not participating in any of those, and that would be very negative for me to take in proceeds for teaching of Dharma. So on the spot, he divided up the millions that were taken in to be given away to causes in Africa, causes for the poor in America. And Rinpoche can't pay yogi mida.
배나 정권은 붙이라 저 먹을리 든지 차대요 말이지 자와는 붙이 살레자 침보리 왜그다 내 땅 강아 침보진 차대요리 이 돈이 야다 바유 잡주 배바담지 배샤 든지 유니 든지 말이 망보 쪼리 삼로 땅와 있나 임바 있네 양 자와는 붙이게 슐렁가 와지게 gelong chi imbe chani chulang garwa chi le jumre se ade tate pe masi nga ne kala thu de le jumre lang garwa tate ke pe ke chim bori ndo wa chang gon bo chi ke desa ina ya ta this nang do si shi so
And with the desperate situation of Tibetans in Tibet and Tibetans in Nepal and the Nepalese people and so on, there's great suffering, poverty, and destitution, that is there, and there would be a great temptation for His Holiness the Dalai Lama to take that money, and use it for these ways. But his being, a simple monk and very attentive to adhering to natural law of cause and effect, karma, his not taking. He said, if I have enough for my plane ticket, that's enough. I don't need any more than that, And so for him to treat these millions of dollars in that way, Rinpoche says, it really impacted my mind tremendously at that time. Admiration and appreciation of this kind of purity and practice with Dharma.
tablang kayan shirab je lante imbe mapang ta disu ko she magwa shi tablang kayan shirab je lamte imbe mapang se ade sangha gna ne sonan de yuri tablam se ade tada katang aju jiklep songa tabji cha se ade any tummo dang any de dong sung yo la so ba lam any rimati ya la so ba disu ko la sung yuri de de jane tabje lamte shirabje lamte imbe mabang si sangha ka tablamde tablam naro churo rolam saje chimbo si sheke yora tabji chade ani rimati ya la sobadang de ani toba bondong ki chi de ne sowa ina pangni ga mari ting go ri sia de ta tu su ko de pe tawan tumbo haja tawan tumbo ga de la mo ga la song ya le ri do wa.
In the next line, since the path of method is always a support for the path of knowledge, do not abandon it. So this is a reference to tantric practice. And we say the path of method here is referring to tantric union with the consort, is referring to the igniting of the inner fire of tumo and the experiencing of the blisses. And so this is, again, referring to high levels of tantric practice.
No for us. Laime.
Oh, I wouldn't say that.
Yeah, you should say this.
It's for us. It's for us sometime, right? Maomba not to do that wrong.
No for me, David Molk. I am no higher level like you.
Maomba Rinpoche, yeah.
I wish, David Molk, one day like this. Okay. I wish. But right now, what we say, first, we have to fight for the delusion, fight for the nata. That is called the lamchir mambochidoa, nawa, toba, numong, doye. Any that is a drug nata. That is called the Nato Tata Le Tambo Pala Panza Chanchang or Natokwan Tombo Rido see. Oh, the Chivaina, Churan, the Dugong in the Yumak Antegrava. Oh, the day the Tani, so Raloco, the Majua in the Tani, Toba the Catil and Lebja. And the Toba Tina Yins in the Chuba and Roya the Kitchen Borwa. Roa. Toba say at the same coton, Togo, but the Canin Rachak Boshiake, Pingi Yomari. Same coton in Wine. They are turning Gatin, para Sangatin, Bodi so hard. Solam, Jolan, Tolan, Gomlam. That is called Kawalan Lebja. So the hard college sene. Any Juba there didn't yamdo Rogorimato. Our the Pe Massimawasi. Any Juba the song just say cunning out of watching boy in Chichi and Shanghai, maybe she the lake. That they Pe Massi. Our Nampalin Tojang. Le jumde Cuba de Baxil ship seade. Pekachimborda.
So what's important here is for us to be able to gauge our own level of practice. the many kinds of things that are talked about here, being taken onto the path of sickness, of delusions, of these paths of method, and tantra. If we were to apply them inappropriately at a beginning level, say to go with our attachment or go with our aversion, thinking that it's the spiritual path, and to act in ways that are very high and mighty, and to talk about it as if we're at really high levels of practice, when really our understanding is at a low level. And so, what we need is to have realizations that are very high level, and even then, to be paying special attention, very minute attention to our conduct, that it's not sloppy, careless, that is very precisely following the law of cause and effect, and not the opposite, where our realizations are very little, and yet we act like, as if we have these high levels of realization, and practice attachment and so on. So we need to gauge our own level of realization and conduct ourselves accordingly.
Jayimbe.
Lotus.
They go about the Tibet job with Luchi Chuchu Mabangs, Tibet Joksina, Churank Joksu than Timba, Churank Nipe Joksu than Timber, Luchi Chuchu Sa Gorwa. Only Luchi Chuchu Sondwa, the Luchi Chuchu Mutini. Luchi Chuchu Shuktin la, Nag Chuchu Kande. Nag Chuchu Shuktin la, Shuk Kareting Yuri, same Gonjaya. Tribjin job Luji Chuju Mabang, Tribjin job Nag Chuju Mabang, Tribjin job Senji Chuju Mabang, Donna, Tribjin job Gosumje Chuju Mabang. Tribjin job Sena, Nibe Joksu Churan Katsi, Tukuyuna Katsi Tupte, or the Nishigori Isunguri.
And saying, do not abandon physical Dharma practices that you can accomplish. So physical Dharma practices refer to practices like prostrations and making circumambulations, to engage in these as much as you can. And while that is the explicit or obvious practice that one is doing, along with that will come vocal practice. You'll be reciting prayers or reciting mantras, and then along with that, there will be the engagement of your mind in the practice. So this is advice to keep up all practices of body, speech, and mind, in effect, that we can possibly keep up.
And then Nipa Chunyang, Yindu Jisamba Mapangs. The Nipa Chunayang, Nipa Chung Sea, that Natu Namjung. Kani Manang Padanya Besimchi Tamchi Shake Yorwa Kani. That Ganzan doing King they can sometimes let draw down you. Oh, number chute, the king chute. Hot labor yaborias, in a gallery meadows. Gansina, nay, Nankan Tatanya Besimchi the pie or day. Narang Namelakaja Shinayang, Niga marriage. I think we need to mountain bacheri yas. We natural Korang, Dr. Degomendosi. The Ningalakaja Shini Shong. But telling a link at Jakayusina. Shurang Nipa Chunyang, Jindu Samba Mapansi at the check. Shurang Nipa Chunayang, Shurang at the Samba Zamji. Shurang Kayu Layu at the Shigo Marawa. Natoka she took so kangan Nankotadania Besimji Magic Kawashi took it. Some of the Judge Chimpo Tanga Samji Churan la Sona Pada Mepachi, Sona Pada Mepachi, Tokuyuri. That is Yutin in the Shijamna.
So then, do not abandon the intention to benefit others, even though you have little ability. So sometimes people will say to me, well, I'm practicing this Mahayana Dharma, which it's so wonderful. And we talk about, benefiting all sentient beings throughout space. But that, I can't do it. That won't work for me, because I can't even get the people in my family to listen to me. So how, so it seems that this situation we're talking about in the Mahayana Dharma and the actual reality on the ground are two different things. They don't make sense. And Rinpoche said, of course, you can't benefit all sentient beings throughout space, right now. Who can do that? No. But even to have that thought, to have that very focused, determined thought creates tremendous amounts of positive energy. So just even having the thought, even having the wish, creates tremendous positive energy.
특히 그 값은 쌈바도 조라시 니시게요리 쌈 조르세야 돼. 때 패키지 뭐래. 쌈세야 돼. 그 셈 쌈로 땅야 돼. 조르세야 돼. 그 무스 라린 또야. 주복 라린 또야라와. 근데 이제 자네 조르토니 나고 타다냐 심진 탐지 몇지 그 가와 레가 레토그리. 동할 메리지 수소토 그리. 조르토니 깨지시게요 말. 쌈부토니 휴랑 같이 느바 메리 가야 미실리지게 니바 총야지 같이 주란 니바 총나양 주란 그 쌈초그리 쌈초그리 이 쌈바 짬지 주랑라 빼핀도 지모요 준족나니 로고 대화지니 바테고 인된 되래서 로고 동할 지니 바테고 란된 되래서 망도 시에다 지시 그 시베란도 시바다 특별 인지 되시 반데 니지는 제발도서로와 이 쌈로 자침보든 가서는 매네 아니 코와는 창리시 아주 내가 될 tuk들 nga chol samlo ti ja chimbo de mene nga sine ngaran chikpo la samlo tane ni khowalan chang si sanjuk sumba nam 상je sanjuk sumba thobroya de rang pha lu tang ne nang ko thada nya ba sinji sia de samlo tin ja chimbo je tang de samlo di chu ge ni yorba thoni la ni to ne de ni ka thone ni 상je songari si de ri do wa.
So we have two aspects spoken of in the teachings of our thoughts, our mental state, our intentions, and then our conduct, action. So thoughts are about our contemplation, our motivation, our perception, and then action or application is in our actual physical application. And so as far as being able to feed or eliminate the poverty of all living beings throughout space, that is impossible. Even a Buddha can't do that. But changing our mental attitude is all important, however, because what has kept us trapped in samsara for so long is this self-infatuation, feeling of self-importance, me, whereas it's the attitude of altruism, dedication toward the welfare of others that has enabled Buddhas to attain enlightenment. So as Shantideva said, that cause of all suffering in the world is wanting solely our own happiness. And the cause of all happiness in the world is solely the cause of love and wanting the happiness of others. What need is there to say much? Just look at sentient beings seeking their own welfare, wandering in samsara, compared to Buddhas who have dedicated themselves to the welfare of others. So it's through cultivating this altruistic attitude, completely dedicated to the welfare of all living beings, that then the actions will follow suit and practice will evolve from there. And that's how a being will attain enlightenment. So it's so important for us to transform our mental attitude in this way.
라소 다들 뻥말사비 주주이노 시다들은 아주 들으자 요기.
So these are the 10 things not to be abandoned. We'll leave the subject matter text here for today.
아니 다들은 저와 매주 시트와데 유마가 토라 아니 지난주 니라 내당 아니 유마가 주도 니데 냠도 세네 저와요는 유마들 링게 인시.
So we won't, I don't think, take any questions right now. But if you want to think about questions you'd like to ask about this or the previous explanations, then we'll do that next time.
Next section. Next teaching.
Lotus.
Yeah. Anything that Jitandi Gampopa ka song de Koran Yamni pe Kadambe Givishi Yamni Tsin Hombochi Yuzane. The Koran can Yamni ge Gandang you meet any Loma Nala Yamni Yamchi at the Masong Yajuridoa. Sometimes a bear masing around so like you natural Lali to Kale Kapodang. Sometimes that it got the teacher. Then the ine not to sing a toll Jane. That she can't get up the Segora, this hola, comba pon, this hola. Wrote to them better to see at it, don't actually each other.
So Gampopa, having been a very highly educated Kadam master before meeting Milarepa and becoming his disciple, is talking about things at a very high level of practice. So he's freely speaking of his own high levels of practice, and where those are not possible for us to engage in now, we can still hear them, keep them in mind, and feel the responsibility to realize these things in the future.
Lasso, any de la Samja, any Molam doya doda. Oh, yeah.
So we'll have a concluding prayer.
Bande tsawe lama rinpoche dagi chiworo peme dinshu la katin chenpe kone jison kuson tuge ngodru tse do so. Om sote ramjan kyamne gyatsu chenla tan tenye tendre luwa mepe tu. Kebara chime tseye la tso ki tsewa ishe chingche tengirepo. Kegwe chinle ka ke kama be kasu donga chazo menga ju. Ome suwe lamda nyamdo ki yunde tseka ki tere shabdes. Kanki sansum doje rankam su lekwara tenje longdo tampech. Shidru tusa gombe dude yisa den gembe chinle tachin shu. Pade lame nambara tarba la kichi samya lokta mekesh. Chinze lekwara tongwe mugu ki lame chinla semla chupa shu. Kewa kundu yangda lama dang jeme chuge bela longchuch. Satan lamke yunde rabzo ne pade lame kobanyo to shu.
Yeah, O glorious and precious root Guru, please take seat of lotus at my crown. Caring for me in your great kindness, please grant attainments of body, speech, and mind. I do need that, Rachel. Om Swasti, may the blessings of infinite seas of our places of refuge, the force of the two truths, infallible interdependence, and especially the hosts of deities of immortal well-being, now rain down the magnificent splendor of their wisdom and power of longevity. The Lord of the dance of all victors, enlightened activities, Karmapa, your unquenchable thirst for the inner essence of this tradition's doctrines of discourses, tantras, great seal, great perfection, and fifth instructions has brought the qualities of signs on the spiritual path, your experience and realization, to their full flowering. May your life be firm. May the wisdom mysteries of your body, speech, and mind be as perfectly firm as a Vajra's own immutable elements. May your gatherings of disciples who study and practice the sacred teachings of scripture and realization by listening, contemplation, and meditation, Rachel, the last line, reach their full culmination, I believe. Cover the earth. May your activity reach its ultimate consummation. Oh, may I never for an instant develop wrong views of the glorious Guru's life and deeds, but with devotion, seeing all they do as excellent, may the Guru's blessings enter my mind.
Dashin Simjin Damje Lo Ju Sun Do Vara Sinje Labdo Soro Ju Lamdo Do Vara Sinje Labdo Soro Lantern Bas Vara Sinje Labdo Soro Turba Yishi Sunje Vara Sinje Labdo So Daso Namje Chudan Tumba Ye Jedara Samba Yibjin Turba Dan Ne Donki So Badu Jiben So Nye Vara Shi Vara Sinje Labdo 내가 서양가진 타다신 튼진세 아벤줄지 바단 주진지 베로다슬인지도 삼바동 군르베라시쇼 내지민산 베라지진 이제 바다다 버름나스 심지 임메데베 내난곤지 띵감선 요와나 마저 심지 내바지니 바 유드네레 다와쇼 로베네 남말레 바 따든 용아메 바쇼 미남 뜨다된 바다 상하데 존르 바 칸로슨 볼라소 바 닌지센다 딘제 라소 도지치 아니 좀 추태랑 선지용. Thank you so much everyone. Forward to see you next Saturday.